point, then, it becomes an important potential political moment, where people can really understand it's not just water. Although the water is critical, we've got to fight for that. But that same ideology that can go in and shut off somebody's water, right? Regardless of whether it's an elderly person, regardless of whether it's a disabled or sick person, regardless of whether there's children in the house, is that same attitude that will ruin the Detroit public school system, not invest in people and opportunity, right? And frankly, not give a damn. Right? That is the governing belief system, right? And the water then becomes an important political moment to make transparent, right, and cut through the rhetoric of what the values really are. Additionally, I think you could tell a story where the water shutoffs correlate, right, over time certainly, with the deteriorating neighborhoods, the no longer viable neighborhoods in terms of real estate market, and further are forcing people out of neighborhoods where Detroit Future City doesn't want them to live. So I think on multiple levels, you're sort of seeing how different parts of city policies are becoming manifested in action, are connecting the dots. They're connecting the dots already, right? This is sort of the important thing to realize. All those dots are connected as a matter of policy, and they're self-referential, right? So Detroit Future City needs changes, and the Blight Task Force makes the changes for the land bank to accentuate it, and talks glowingly about Detroit Future City. Nobody sort of raised their hand to say, well, Peter, we have no way to pay for that $1 billion to destroy houses, right? Do you know where half of that $1 billion is coming from? Exit financing in the city's plan of adjustment. So after we get rid of billions of dollars in debt, we're going to take out a new loan, right? What are we going to do with that $500 million, $500 million, nearly $420 million? Are we going to build new schools? Right? Are we going to have Head Start programs? Are we going to reduce maternal and child mortality? No, we're going to knock down buildings. Right? And so the plan of adjustment becomes the mechanism to fuel the blight removal, right? And the blight removal becomes the mechanism to implement Detroit Future City. And none of that focuses on people. That focuses on property, right? Focuses on markets, right? Is not investing in people. All right, so I sort of stole my own thunder. In the plan of adjustment, you're sort of seeing this coming, but I'll sort of walk through that again because repetition sort of drives it home. The plan of adjustments really is a mechanism to enshrine what is becoming the new minimalist city. Right? And only poor people, and only people of colors have the privilege of living in these minimalist cities. Right? And what defines it, first off, the only things that these minimalist cities will provide, right, and the only thing left after the plan of adjustment, the sort of logical evolution of the fiscal austerity, police, fire, knock down buildings. Right? This is government. This is what government will do for you. Police, fire, knock down buildings. Right? No effort to invest in human capacity. Right? No effort to try to create aspects of community. No effort to reverse 80 years of structural racism that have created the absence of opportunity in the opportunity desert. Right? Basically, this will be an increase in wasteland. Right? And with echoes of Ferguson, right, and with the 50th year coming up of the rebellions of '67, what logically happens when your state is investing in an increasing militaristic police force when you're denying opportunity? Right? Spirals. Right? A spiral of potential violence is being created by denying opportunity and investing only in quote-unquote security. Right? Again, Detroit Future City. Right? So we come back. Right? I hate letting on that sort of very negative notes. Right? The diagnosis is not positive. The diagnosis, we have a lot of serious challenges. But what are some possible alternatives? Right? So we sort of shift gears and say, what constructively can people do here? What are some of the things that are out there? We have to be working in the same structure. What is our belief system? What is our values? Right? And again, I think the civil rights movement, right? I think the leaders that we've had from King, the discussion of the beloved community that so many people echo back to me, which I appreciate. Equality, people-focused development, right? Community. Right? We have to be far more express in defining what our values are, defining what our belief system is, and taking on directly contrary belief systems that don't preserve those values. Right? So we've got to think very self-conscious about building the belief system that's going to motivate us. Then we have to focus on the institutional structures. What are the new rules of the game that we need? Right? What are the new laws? What are the new regulations? What are the new norms? Right? And how are we going to link those? The proposals that we're asking for have to reflect our values. The changes that we're getting in the law have to feed back and increase the belief system. And we have to get the same synergies back and forth between an alternative institutional structure and belief system that has been fueling this very destructive system and downward spiral between the belief system of fiscal federalism and fiscal austerity and the institutional structure. One interesting proposal, the United Nations next year will be negotiating a new set of sustainable development goals. International goals focusing upon sustainable communities, sustainable economies, and sustainable environment. Right? And Jeffrey Sachs, who was also a son of Detroit, was here about 2 weeks ago, sort of floating the idea and saying, would people in our community be interested in defining a Detroit-specific set of sustainable development goals that could be adopted in conjunction with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals next September, and commit ourselves to goals, targets, metrics, right, and accountability to police sustainability on these three fronts. Right? I think that's a very exciting possibility, right? Constructive way to be moving forward, focusing on sustainability. But there's already important work that's been done. Right? I think that the water affordability plan represents a quintessential. Well, hard definitional, right? But certainly sustainable systems are not self-destructive, right? Sustainable systems don't damage the environment. So we're linking then how we build the environment, how we're building the economy, how we're developing opportunity for people. But part of that's our challenge, how we do sustainable, right? Yeah, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, right? But I think there are positive visions out there is what I want to say. And I think sustainability that links environment, community, and economy in a holistic way is one of the possible alternative belief systems we can look at. But I want to honor the hard work that's been done about the water affordability plan. Right? 10 years ago or more, people have been fighting for this. This also is an exciting alternative paradigm about how to deal with water, how to deal with justice, right? And it expressly incorporates principles of equity, right? Principles of justice, based upon ability to pay. Progressive notions that those with more should give more, those who have less should be expected to be giving the same amount. And in theory, and I think the analysis is a little bit of updating and whatnot, in theory could actually produce greater revenue. Right? So creativity, new exploration, the template provided by the Water Affordability Plan gives one alternative approach. Keep hitting that dang button. You're not out yet. We're getting close. I promise you we're getting close. I think the good work of the People's Platform, right, and the focus that you have done on community benefits agreements is one of the standard bearers of this new alternative approaches, right? And I think you should be congratulated for really being leaders in this area. Again, different values, different belief systems, different institutional structures, community participation, local focus for development, new forms of partnership with business, not business as usual.
That's right.
And placing people at the center of development. Right? Core sets of values reflected in new institutional changes, change the rules of the game, get positive feedback between that structure of the belief system, and start to change the facts on the ground. And I'd give a similar shout out to people who are dealing with community land trusts. Right? And again, think about the values, the belief systems that motivates that, and how that gets translated into new institutional structures. A justice paradigm for land ownership. Right? Not just private property, not just do whatever you want, but thinking about land ownership in the context of social justice, new values of land stewardship, new tools for community. Right? We need self-help. Right? People need the tools to take care of themselves, right? To assert control for their own homes and their own neighborhoods in the absence of effective governance, and a new ethic of building communities. Right? So I think there's a lot of very positive things. Right? Why is it important to connect the dots? All right, we're sort of doing in a talk like this. I think it's important to see the interconnections between beliefs and institutions. I think it's very important to see that these crises have deep structural roots in structural racism and fiscal austerity. It's important to view these dots, right, Detroit Future City, financial crisis, emergency management, as symptoms of a deeper root cause, right? And then we need to be thinking about how do we attack those roots, right? And we need to start imagining different possible futures. And at that point, well, I would say there's a wonderful contrast you can do between the Kerner Commission report that was produced at the end of the 1960s in the wave of urban unrest. And if you view that as a plan of adjustment, right? So the thought experiment is this. Look at the Kerner Commission report, right, coming in the late 1960s, an artifact of the Great Society set of values, and contrast that with the fiscal austerity in the Detroit Plan of Adjustment. What they said is that, and I'll quote this, it says, we need a new alternative. This alternative will require a commitment to national action, compassionate, massive, and sustained, backed by the resources of the most powerful and richest nation on earth. And there's language in there about needing to increase taxes, needing to dedicate resources, needing to invest in people. If you remember, the sort of classic line of the Kerner Commission report was saying, we are coming to a society separate and unequal, black and white. Right? And they viewed that as unacceptable. And they had a call to action to rebuild cities, invest in cities. Fast forward 50 years. That future is here. Separate, unequal, black and white. And rather than a rallying call for investment in resources and social action and compassion, we get the fiscal austerity of the Detroit Plan of Adjustment, which simply ratifies separate and unequal between Detroit and the region. Right? Those are the takes. Now I can actually say thank you. I'll take questions.